स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। यथाग्नेर्दाहिका शक्ति रामकृष्णे स्थिता हि या सर्वविद्यास्वरूपां तां शारदां प्रणमाम्यहम्। नमः श्री यतिराजाय विवेकानन्दसूरये सच्चित्सुखस्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे। All my dear friends associated with the Vedanta Society of Connecticut and all others also who have joined this YouTube discussion. So today's topic is Thakur-Ma-Swamiji, the loving and endearing way that the huge family of devotees, monastic and householders, they address Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, Sarada Devi and Swami Vivekananda as Thakur-Ma-Swamiji. It is as if the three names are taken in one breath, as if they are one. And the oneness is so much in their our understanding of these three persons that although three in appearance, somehow or other, in a very mysterious way, they are all interwoven and connected. It is like if you hold one, you hold the other two. If you think of one, you think of other two. If you get blessings of one, you get the blessings of other two too. So, today we shall try to see briefly how these three became together a great living instrument for the dissemination of the message eternal of religion for our times. For these times, the message has to be delivered by the incarnation, that God incarnating as human being. And some very good writer and student of this literature commented that the manifestation of God in human form is according to the needs of time. And since the needs of our time were much grave, much more well spread, instead of assuming just one form, God has assumed his three forms, Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother and Swami Vivekananda. So, to carry on this work of bringing the eternal message of Sanatana dharma, the eternal religion, Sanatana dharma is the proper right name for what gets commonly called as Hinduism. Swami Vivekananda has repeatedly mentioned this fact that it is Sanatana. The Hinduism or Hindu religion is not at all its real name. Hindu just represents a geographical territory, not really the religious and spiritual ideals that sprang up. For thousands of years, they have been giving this solace to humankind all over. That really has no connection, no geographical connection with anything. It is religion, eternal, religion universal. So that message was brought to this world. Wherever you people are, wherever human beings are, for them this universal message has been brought by these three woven together in one, as it were. It is sometimes it is represented as a bouquet of three flowers put in together. Sometimes it is represented as the three sides of a triangle, and it is, of course, all these descriptions are wonderful, very good, and they connote certain ideas which are very useful. But the oneness of these three, it is so intricate and interwoven, it is very difficult to tell what is it. That where one ends and the other begins, it is impossible to tell. It is said that like that grain, a split grain, like the black beans. When you split it, then every grain is black on one side, white on another side. So if you hold any grain, it is white and black together. So it is Thakur-Ma-Swamiji together, whomsoever you hold. And that is why you will see that the worship of these three, this kind of a trident of Shiva, like there are these three in the trident. So we have this trident of Thakur-Ma-Swamiji. It is all, they are so together. It is, and yet their personalities are tremendously diverse. Therefore, the message also is given in very different way, and yet they all need to be combined in our life. And we shall see how these things manifest in this very brief survey. I am not going to tell you any new fact or any new incident that you don't know. It is all, we had been discussing this on various platforms. The devotees of this Thakur's order, they know them very well. They have read it multiple times. But let us recollect, let us see how the three came together and formed a great instrument of dissemination of this message, religion. As Lord Krishna has mentioned, that the very purpose is abhyuthanam, adharmasya. When there is the abhyuthan of adharma happens, then that has to be removed, and the dharma, the religion eternal, is again to be re-established. So, paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam. dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So, this establishing the religion and bringing that sense of protection to those who have this good tendencies, and then removing the bad tendencies in others, encouraging the good tendencies. This is why the Sambhavami Yuge Yuge, each age the divine appears in the human form. So, as you can see, in 1836 in the small village of Kamarpukur, this little baby was born just like an ordinary baby, but not like an ordinary baby. Was prompted by a dream, and it is an immaculate conception. It was not a baby born through the contact of a man and woman. It is, if we read how the things happened before Sri Ramakrishna's birth, it would be quite clear that it cannot be through the contact of man and woman. It is so this baby was born, and then showed right from the childhood many characteristics which were not commonly seen in children. There were, of course, some characteristics that are commonly found in all children, like he also was very playful and naughty, and also had some special interests, like the children like to mimic and take part in plays, dramas. I also used to do that in my childhood. So, that interest he had, not much interest in formal schooling. It is, of course, that is also a characteristic found in many kids, but that doesn't really match. The reason behind this is different in Sri Ramakrishna. Not that Sri Ramakrishna was a dumb student. He studied, it seems, quite well. Some of the later discoveries show he was, although he had an aversion towards arithmetic and calculations, he was still good at it at that school level. He knew that fairly well, and even the reading and writing, he had learned to some extent, and had copied some of those old puthis or these folklore books, religious books. So, some religious plays also he had copied. So, but the traits which were quite different were, one was his falling in a trance, going into another world, which appeared to very naturally to the parents and others in the village, that it is a sign of disease. Some pathology has probably epilepsy, and which are commonly known that the people have these sicknesses. So, there was this worry about it, that this child has epilepsy, and then there were some village remedies also applied for that. But one thing that was always there after such experiences, that this little child, Gadadhar, as he was then called, Gadai, Gadadhar, that during this time he was full of great happiness, joy. There was no after effects either of, if it is epilepsy, sometimes there are the lingering after effects. But Gadadhar did not have any such effect. Moreover, his devotion was seen palpably. His desire to go and mix with the wandering ascetics, the sadhus, and serving them was also quite unusual. So that was noticed. And then we know, to make this life move forward, his father passed away, and then the family income was never much, and then for the growing family it was not sufficient at all by any yardstick. So the eldest of this son, that is Sri Ramakrishna's eldest brother, he decided to go to Kolkata to find some ways of making money. And as things happened, he became priest at the Kali temple of Dakshineshwar in 1855. That when the Kali temple was inaugurated, he played an instrumental role in getting that inauguration done, and then became the priest at the Kali temple. And then he also passed away, and this boy Gadadhar became the priest. At this time, I think he started getting known as Ramakrishna. In the register where they write the names and signature of these employees, his name was written as Ramakrishna, not as Gadadhar. So, whatever it may be, but at that time, it was seen his tremendous yearning, tremendous urge for God realization. Very, very unusual. And this is important because the devotions are actually not practiced by most people for God realization. They are practiced for getting some benefits in the world, that may this disease go away. I remember one young girl used to come to the shrine in our mutt in Nagpur, and then she very devoted, very sincere. Later she became a nun in Sarda Mutt also. So, but as she would come and sit and meditate, it was noticed by some other woman. She also used to come to do some salutations and prayers. And then seeing this young girl coming there very often, almost daily, so she asked, have you got any trouble? Do you have any disease? Or what is that you here come for? You must be having some problem at home, or you have some disease, or do you want something to happen? What is it that you are coming for? What is the reason? And now that girl was naturally at a loss to explain that no, for none of these things that you are thinking of. I come for my spiritual life, but how to tell it to somebody? She tried a little bit, but saw from the face of that other elderly lady that she did not understand a single thing, because it is unusual. to have yearning for God realization, to have liking for God is not usual. We pray to God because of liking for other things, and which God may be able to supply to us. May I get a good job, did God make it happen for me? So that is not actually liking for God. So the liking for money, liking for other earthly enjoyments, and getting rid of diseases and so forth, the problems, the pains in life that we want to get rid of. So for that the prayers usually seem to happen. The yearning for God, I want God and I want nothing else. It is, I want God alone. This young boy, it is Sri Ramakrishna was just about 20 years old, 1836 and it is 1856 now. And he was worshipping Mother Kali, but the mind was is there some reality behind this image? What is it? And he was crying with such yearning and the feeling of that sorrow, that, oh, why are you not giving me the vision, oh Mother? It is, and this yearning and feeling of sadness, sorrow became so intense that he described it later. It was as if a wet towel, completely drenching wet towel is being wrung. So like that my heart was being wrung like that. That kind of intense feeling was there. So, and then he used to cry aloud. Sometimes afterwards he would feel that what people would think if I cry like that, a grown-up person crying like a child, and for what? Nobody is capable of understanding it, hardly anybody. It is said in one of the Marathi, this literature on saints, that one saint says that बहुता सुकृतांची जोडी म्हणून विठ्ठली आवडी, that because of the lot of accumulation of good tendencies, good work done in many past lives, one gets this liking for God. The liking means that liking is relentless. I have to have it. It is, nothing else can substitute it. That I want that and that alone. Like a little child, I was about 1.5 to 2 years old, I remember. He wanted something that his elder brother had, and then now it wasn't anything special, just but at that moment where to find it? The elder brother who had it had vanished, not to be seen, and this little child was crying and crying and crying all the time that I want it, I want it. Some better things, some candy, some such things were given. No. I want that and that alone. The elder brother, it was a book actually. And then this little child was not able to read or anything. So, but he said, no, I want that, that's it. So somehow after that other brother came and then book was given, it was calmed down. So I want that, nothing else. That kind of single pointed yearning was seen, that I want nothing else, only this. And then he was ready to give up his life. If that is not happening, there is no point in living. The life is worth living only if a God realization happens. So he was going to cut his head in the temple with the same sword that is usually that adorns the Kali temple. So he was going to cut his head with that, and then he had that tremendous vision of the divine Mother Kali. It is, and his description is very important in this context, that he didn't see a particular image or face as such of Mother Kali that we see in temples. Or the Dakshina Kali that he was worshipping, not a particular face, not any particular form, but the shining that ocean of consciousness, waves after waves of that were engulfing him. He was completely drowned in that radiant ocean of consciousness. That was what he could see. That is the Mother Kali. So that is this vision. And then that kind of, brought this awareness that alone is all. And his spiritual practices got more intense, that always wanting to remain in that mode. Now one can easily imagine that in the eyes of all around, this was a madness. Person has lost sanity. And what has happened? Everybody got worried. It's a disease. Something needs to be done for this. And then when he went to his village, native village, Kamarpukur, his worried mother and other relations started thinking, and that is what usually thought, if a young boy is behaving in this way, not in the normal way, then let us get that fellow married, and then everything will be straightened out. The person, that young man, will get more sense of responsibility, and the wife will instill some sense in that haywire gone brain. So therefore they started looking for a bride. And as to take the matters, just fast forwarding, that Sarada Devi came in that life. It was an divinely ordained marriage. The Sri Ramakrishna had told, when they were looking for a bride, that no suitable bride was getting found. And then this girl, he said that go to that village, there is that girl, Mukherjee's daughter, is actually kept reserved for me, earmarked for me. So, and then that wedding happened. This little girl whom Sri Ramakrishna got married was at that time just barely 5 years of age. It is 1859 that the marriage took place. And then as you can see, Sarada Devi was at that time just barely 5 years old, getting to 6 years, and the Gadadhar, this boy, was 23 years old. So they, and then afterwards, Sri Ramakrishna went back to Dakshineshwar, resumed his life there, and the same thing, this divine ecstasy, and that there was no inclination whatsoever about earning money and raising the family, no such thing at all, even after marriage. So this went on for some time. In between, again, Sri Ramakrishna went to Kamarpukur, and that was in 1867, when Holy Mother, as you can see, she was about 14 years old at that time. She also came to Kamarpukur. And then she had lot of memories how Sri Ramakrishna taught her many things, right from how to put the thread in the eye of the needle, and many such things that were taught by Sri Ramakrishna to her. Nice stories of that time, but for the want of time we shall skip them. And then Holy Mother Sarada Devi, a young 14-year-old girl then, went back to her parental village, but then started getting all those disturbing news about Sri Ramakrishna, that he has gone completely insane now, and all the village women, they used to comment with that seeming sadness, and that, oh, what is this fate of this nice girl now? She was married, she got married to this insane fellow. One should always, pay attention whom you are getting married. Your daughter is getting married. Now what will happen to her? Oh, we are so sorry for this Sarada Devi. Sarada, Saru, she was being called Saru. So now, naturally, these remarks did not tally with what Sarada Devi had seen in Kamarpukur. She knew that her husband is so loving, so good, and taught her so many things. He did not appear to be insane at all. So she decided to verify, and as things happened, she came to Dakshineshwar, and Sri Ramakrishna welcomed her with open arms and made arrangement for her stay there in his room in Dakshineshwar. So, and then they were staying together without the slightest tinge of carnality ever arising in any of their minds. No touch of any physical desire coming up. And to make it explicit, it so happened once, it is from both sides, this is something that should be kept etched on our mind, I feel, that Sarada Devi asks that Sri Ramakrishna, that how do you look upon me? See, they were sleeping there in that same room together, And at that time, that was Holy Mother was massaging Sri Ramakrishna's feet. She asked, and that, how do you look upon me? And asked point blank like that, unfazed. Sri Ramakrishna instantly replied that the one who is in the Kali temple there, the mother who is in Kali temple, another mother who is Sri Ramakrishna's actual mother, Chandramani Devi, she was also staying there at that time. So the one who lives here in that Nahabat, and the one who is now massaging my feet, they are same to me, the same divine being. There is, and Sri Ramakrishna asked Sarada Devi that, well, have you come to drag me in this world? He said, well, I am married to you. You have full right as such. When it comes to, that is this age, matters of rights and duties and all that. So, I am rightfully your husband, and if you, do you have any such desire? Do you want to drag me into this world? And categorically denying this, Holy Mother said, no, I have come to just help you and serve you and learn from you. That is why I am here. I don't have the slightest desire to drag you in this world. So this is how Swami Saradananda, in that great classic biography of Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Ramakrishna Leela Prasanga, or English translations as Sri Ramakrishna and his divine play, you can read this very absorbing account of how this relationship was so pivotal to this great work of bringing the basic ideas of religion come concretely in the human society of this age. It was all very important that this family coming together is for the practice of religion. That is why in our this culture, it is a wife is addressed as dharma patni. What it means is that she is there for us to follow the path of dharma together. We have to follow the path of dharma, so called dharma patni. So it is a very important phenomena in this rejuvenation of religious ideals in modern times, that this marriage of Sri Ramakrishna and Sarada Devi, and that very year when she had come to Dakshineshwar, and that was in 1872, that she first came to Dakshineshwar. Imagine, she was just about 19-20 years old. And so this 19-year-old girl, imagine, coming from a little known village, you can say, Jairambati, and more or less illiterate, ordinary looking village girl, now is worshipped by Sri Ramakrishna as the manifestation of Mother Durga, Jagan Mata, She is worshipped as the mother of the universe in the form of what is called Shodashi. So, on what is known as Falaharini Kali Puja Day, Amavasya, Falaharini Amavasya, the new moon day of that particular month in June, comes around the June or July. So, she was worshipped as the goddess. So, a confirmation of her role in this whole movement. Now, Sri Ramakrishna has given this message through this worship of the innate divinity which has to be seen by a man in a woman, that she is the embodiment of divine motherhood. So, this incident is so important and so unique in the history of mankind. Sri Ramakrishna worshipping Holy Mother. And then Sri Ramakrishna was again seized by that same that urge that he had accumulated all this spiritual treasure, as it were. He had shown a few things, very, very important few things, friends, that God can be realized, and God realization is the goal of life. And the path of that was also shown, that renunciation is the path. And he also had shown by this time, by practicing all different religions, including Islam and Christianity, that all different paths, the paths although are different, they lead to the same one goal. So that was kind of established. And then he was waiting now for the receivers of this knowledge. The manufacturing is there, but now the distribution has to happen. Where are the worthy candidates who can receive this? So he was feeling that urge. Many by that time had heard about Sri Ramakrishna through Keshav Chandra Sen, a great religious leader of Brahma Samaj of that time, very well-known figure, and he wrote about Sri Ramakrishna. Many got attracted to Sri Ramakrishna by reading that, and one young man walks in on one day there. He saw Sri Ramakrishna first, not at Dakshineshwar but some other place, at a devotee's home near his house, and then sang a song or so. But that meeting didn't go on much, but Sri Ramakrishna knew that here is his companion, the great helpmate in his work. And he came to Dakshineshwar one day filled with similar urge for experience of God, and was looking for somebody who has actually experienced God. So, and he was asking many religious teachers, well known for their erudition and oratory skills, teaching skills, but could not get a clear answer that have they seen God? And he was tremendously intelligent and learned college-going youth. His learning, this Narendra Nath's learning was so vast. He has not left really any topic of secular education unfathomed. He had gone to the depth of philosophy, science, this anatomy, physiology science, architecture, what not, anthropology, history, music, art. It is just the list is unending, friends. All that you can think of, Narendra, this boy, had learned it all at a young age, just about he was at that time, it is 1881, he was just about 18 years old at that time, that he comes to see Sri Ramakrishna with this burning urge. And then the interaction, again I am fast forwarding, friends. This young boy, very skeptic, had lot of questions and had that power to present those doubts in very, what one should say, scathing terms. That scathing terms, language, debating skills, questioning Sri Ramakrishna himself about Sri Ramakrishna's realization, going to the extent when Sri Ramakrishna would say that, I have seen you, I have been told about you by Divine Mother, that he told the vision that he had about this Narendra, that he is one of the 7 rishis. These 7 rishis, one of them is this Narendra. Narendra questioned him that all these are you called, what is shown to you by mother, they might as well be play of imagination, play your mind. Having studied the modern, these various educational disciplines, he said the modern psychology says that the mind creates all these different visions when deluded. So yours seems to be like that. There were so many telling incidents of this time. One that I am selecting, or let us say 2, that one when Narendra, who used to criticize this worship of God in an image, Sri Ramakrishna would tell him that, oh, why? There is this goddess, but Narendra would not go and bow down in that Kali temple at all. And as it happened that he, after his passing away, suddenly his Narendranath's father passed away and the family was reduced to a very abject poverty. And they were not getting even the food enough to feed all these, and Narendranath was looking for jobs. Unemployment is not just a modern thing. Even in those days, such a brilliant boy with this university education, university degree, was not able to find a decent job. He went from pillar to post. One day he decided that he will tell Sri Ramakrishna about his all this problem and tell him to pray to his Divine Mother so that she can arrange something for his family. And Sri Ramakrishna told that I can't ask for such things, but if you go and ask, she will give you. And then Narendranath, pressed by these circumstances, decided to go and saw there not a stone image, not something, an inert, inanimate thing, but a living, shining goddess, alive. And then forgot all what was to be asked, just came back asking for devotion, knowledge, that discernment and renunciation, such things was asked and came back. And this happened again. Third time also, when he was determined that he will ask, he will not forget, he is going to ask it. But then third time he felt so ashamed to ask this thing. You can imagine, how much he was in terrible, dire need of these things. The simple livelihood was not coming forth. Think of that circumstances, and here is someone who could give, but he felt ashamed, could not ask for such things. And then Sri Ramakrishna became so happy that Narendra now has accepted the Divine Mother. That was a very, very important clog, if that word can be used, in making of this instrument Narendranath into Vivekananda, converting Narendranath into Vivekananda. This was one of the very, very major steps. Then the second step, making Narendranath accept this non-dual Vedanta. It is Narendranath would poo-poo all these ideas that God is in all these things. How could it be? It is all stupidity. He even did not shy away from calling those sages as these fools. It is Sri Ramakrishna scolded him that, see, you don't agree, that's fine. What gave you the right to call those sages as fools? It is not right to call them fools. You don't have those experiences, so you are saying like that. And then Narendranath, already Sri Ramakrishna had touched him a few times to give him the experience of this all dissolving into one reality. The names and forms, they dissolve like the ice cubes kept in the warm weather. They lose their shapes. Just see that all these shapes that we see have actually no reality. Like those ice cubes shapes, they also merge into oneness. Sri Ramakrishna has showed him that, but still was not convinced that God is all this is God. No. Sri Ramakrishna would make him read these books on non-duality by the great Vedanta teachers. Like he would tell him to read that Adhyatma Ramayana and Ashtavakra Samhita, which are books of tremendous non-dual this conviction of the sages. So Narendranath would, what is the use of reading these books? This is blasphemy. This is all that. This is all heaping blames and criticism on God. This is not true. I don't want what Sri Ramakrishna would say. You don't have to read it for yourself. You are just reader for me, isn't it? You don't have to agree to their opinions. You are just reading it for me. But as Narendranath was reading, his mind could get all these ideas. And thus, what happened? Just fast forward. That later we see in Swami Vivekananda, the greatest teacher of non-dual Vedanta, and also showing the secret behind the worship of God through images. Both these things have been presented by Swami Vivekananda to the modern world in such convincing terms. This is the instrument that Sri Ramakrishna had. Many other things, but to make this, these two facets now, Holy Mother, one way Sri Ramakrishna's this machine was going to spread the message, and Vivekananda, the other instrument through which the message would be spread, same message in different language, different expression. So, Sri Ramakrishna tells Holy Mother that you have to do a lot. What have I done? This, showing his body, said, this has not done much. You have to do a lot more. And Holy Mother, see, that same message of Thakur was carried by the presence of Holy Mother, that presence, that life didn't require any oration at all. Giving the message through words is a very, very weak way of doing it. It is Holy Mother just living, being present, her simple words, and doing these very commonly that women's chores of those days. She was doing all that, but Divine Mother herself, Divine Mother, cleaning the pots and pans, brooming the courtyard, taking care of these her kind of orphaned nieces and such other stuff, getting in the midst of that, guiding the devotees about sadhana, giving them spiritual initiations. What a life it is! It is, no words can really give any idea of that life. It is a matter of meditatively absorbing those things that here lived amongst us, like us, working like an ordinary woman, nothing more appeared there, and yet is the mother of the universe. So this is that Divine Mother in appearing as Sarda Devi, Ma, Thakur-Ma, and in Kashipur, Sri Ramakrishna was completing, as it were, his earthly physical existence. That job was getting now wound up. He was getting ready to leave. And as one leaves, one collects all the things, tidies everything. So he was giving finishing touches to all the work that were to be done, giving, as it were, final instructions. And he wrote on the wall in Bengali very clearly that Naren Shikhe Dibe Ghare Baire Dak Podbe, that when there will be called, this Naren, Swami Vivekananda of later years, is going to teach everybody that knowledge that Sri Ramakrishna was embodiment of, was going to spread all over the world. through this very powerful instrument, Vivekananda. So therefore, we have to see these together, friends. Thakur-Ma-Swamiji. Many times people say that, well, Sri Ramakrishna is easy to understand, Vivekananda is difficult to understand. But that understanding of Sri Ramakrishna that you feel very easy, because the stories appear to be very easy, the message doesn't come to us. So, it is a superficial easiness that we feel, Sri Ramakrishna so simple, Vivekananda so difficult. The direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, and then these things I heard from many other Swamis as well, was telling to somebody, one Swami in Bengali, একে তো বিবেকানন্দেই বুঝতে পারছো না, আবার শ্রীরামকৃষ্ণ কোথায়? You are not able to understand even Vivekananda, what to speak of Sri Ramakrishna, who is at such great height. It is so, the practical Vedanta was Sri Ramakrishna's great idea coming out through the teachings of Vivekananda. So we have to see this together. The more we think about it, we will get more and more spiritual benefit, spiritual upliftment, spiritual succor, whatever you may like to call. Yeah. So I conclude here with salutations again to Thakur-Ma-Swamiji. सर्वधर्मस्थापकस्त्वं सर्वधर्मस्वरूपकः आचार्याणां महाचार्यो रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। यथाग्नेर्दाहिका शक्ति रामकृष्णे स्थिता हि या सर्वविद्यास्वरूपां तां शारदां प्रणमाम्यहम्। परतत्वे सदा लीनो रामकृष्णसमाज्ञया यो धर्मस्थापनरतो वीरेशं तं नमाम्यहम्। Now, in case if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Juhi, are there some questions there?
Yes. So, question from Charlie. What was the final thing that got Narendra to accept non-dualism? Reading the books or being touched by Thakur?
Well, all put together you can say that it is the most important thing is the truth prevails, you know. In what way it comes to you is so many factors can be responsible for that. It is so Sri Ramakrishna's touch was greatly responsible. Sri Ramakrishna's assertions were very important. Sri Ramakrishna's immense love was very important. All these things together had the impact. The readings, of course, was important. Moreover, his own intense desire to see the truth. He was so full of wanting to know the truth. So that again was paramount in his acceptance of non-duality.
Question from Beth Willis. Should we look for these three in ourselves?
Oh, correct. Yes, very good. When we think of them, we have to look them in ourselves, in our mind. They are in us. There is no doubt about that. It is the manifestation of all pervading reality in these three forms. So when we think of the ultimate truth and want to practice it as shown by these lives, we have to think of them as sitting in us. It becomes much more powerful. When we have some guide guiding us from outside is one thing, but then somebody is guiding us from inside, that becomes even more powerful. So it is certainly very beneficial to think of them as being within us. Thank you.
Another question from Charlie. Are all religions part of Sanatana dharma or just what is known as Hinduism?
Oh, well, all religions actually, Sanatana means eternal. Hinduism is one manifestation of it. It is not a particular religion that is called Sanatana dharma and should not be thought of as a particular religion. It is the eternal urge of human mind to get answers and the experience of these questions, that who am I, what is this reality around, why do I have these different cravings. These questions have been eternally present in human mind, and so all religions have in essence attempted to answer these questions. So all religions are really Sanatana dharma. Yes.
Last question from Lakshman Thakur. Swamiji Maharaj, you had mentioned in an earlier lecture Sri Raman Maharshi's death experience he had in his house. What lesson or inspiration is there for us devotees from this?
Oh, well, yeah, that was of course a different lecture, but yes, that Raman Maharshi's experience was that he is not body. The death of the body there occurred for him. A very stunning and very useful experience for all of us, that the body is after all matter. It is it doesn't need to separately die as such. It is a dead matter. What makes it alive is the consciousness, the spirit. So what Raman Maharshi saw, that as body, it is all dead. One of my teachers used to tell, and I love that expression, that after all the body is going to get burnt on the funeral pyre. So just imagine right now it is there. The body is there for dying, it is going there today or tomorrow. But to see that what it means is that there is the consciousness that never dies. That is the significant experience, that body is not I. So death of body is not my death. That is the central aspect of that great experience, and that experience Raman Maharshi lived throughout the remainder of his life. It was so powerful an experience that whatever else he was doing later was all permeated by this experience of death, the death of the body. Yes. So friends, let us now go to our Zoom meeting. It is, let me, give me a minute to connect. Now I will be switching off this loudspeaker, this speaker